Chernobyl, 1986, when the Earth stopped breathing. April 25, 1986. The world turned slowly as always, indifferent to the storm brewing in the quiet Soviet town of Pripyat. The air was still, the sky calm. No one imagined that by the early hours of the following day, a name would be carved forever into the history of human catastrophe. Chernobyl. It began like any other day. In the early morning, the staff at Reactor 4 of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant were preparing for a routine safety test. The objective was to simulate a power outage and ensure the reactor could safely shut down without external electricity. It was meant to be a standard procedure, nothing more. But what followed was far from standard. It was a cascade of human error, design flaws, and political pressure, all culminating in the unimaginable. At 1:23 a.m., the reactor exploded. There was no dramatic rumble, no thunder from the heavens, just a silent, glowing cloud that climbed into the sky, carrying with it an invisible death. In Pripyat, the people slept. Children nestled in their beds. Workers resting before another long day. No alarms, no warnings, just radiation, pouring silently into the night. By sunrise, firefighters were on the scene. Brave men rushed toward the inferno, unaware that they were being consumed not by flames, but by particles their eyes couldn't see. Their hands trembled, skin blistered, eyes burned. They had no protective gear, no understanding of what they faced. Some collapsed within hours. Others perished within weeks. They were the first victims of a disaster that would touch millions. But the true horror lay in what came next. The Soviet authorities remained silent. For 36 hours, life in Pripyat went on. Children played outside. Markets opened. Couples walked by the river. All while a cloud of radioactive material blanketed their world. When the evacuation order finally came, it was abrupt. People were told to bring only essentials. "You will return in 3 days," they were assured. But they never did. The city of 50,000 was frozen in time. Plates of food still on tables, laundry half folded, toys on the floor, clocks stopped. The silence of Pripyat became deafening. Thousands of square kilometers surrounding the plant were contaminated. Forests turned red. Livestock died. Rivers carried the poison further. Birds fell from the sky. The wind became a weapon, spreading radiation across Europe. Sweden was the first to detect the anomaly. From there, the world began to ask questions, and the Soviet Union could no longer hide the truth. In the following days and weeks, thousands of workers known as liquidators were sent to contain the disaster. Soldiers, miners, engineers, many of them young, untrained, and unequipped, were tasked with burying radioactive waste, building a sarcophagus over the reactor, and clearing the area of lethal debris. They dug trenches, piled sand and boron, removed graphite with their bare hands. Some worked for only minutes. That was all their bodies could endure. For their efforts, many received medals. Others received tombstones. The number of deaths caused by Chernobyl is still debated. Immediate casualties were limited, but the long-term toll is vast. Thyroid cancer, birth defects, infertility, and psychological trauma plague those exposed. Entire villages were abandoned, livelihoods erased, generations marked by an event they didn't cause. The government placed the blame squarely on reactor staff, and while human error played a role, the deeper truth was systemic. The RBMK reactor was flawed, unstable at low power, lacking containment. And Soviet bureaucracy had silenced engineers, discouraged transparency, and valued appearances over safety. Chernobyl wasn't just a nuclear failure. It was the consequence of a regime that punished honesty. And yet, from that darkness emerged something unexpected: awareness. The disaster forced the Soviet Union to open itself to scrutiny. It contributed to glasnost, the policy of transparency championed by Mikhail Gorbachev. Some even argue that Chernobyl accelerated the fall of the USSR itself. In time, efforts were made to contain what was left. The original sarcophagus was replaced by a massive steel structure called the New Safe Confinement, a monument not only to the past but to the dangers still present. Reactor 4 remains radioactive. The surrounding exclusion zone covering 30 kilometers is a forbidden land. But nature adapted. Without humans, wildlife thrived. Wolves, boars, bears, trees grew through sidewalks, vines crept through buildings. Life returned in strange, haunting beauty. Tourists now visit the ruins. They walk the silent streets of Pripyat, Geiger counters in hand. They stand before the Ferris wheel that never turned. They capture images of decay and echoes. But Chernobyl is not a relic. It is a reminder of what happens when power is misused, when warnings are ignored, when truth is buried for the sake of politics. It is a scar that reminds us of the cost of arrogance and the fragility of civilization. In the years since, other nuclear incidents have occurred. Fukushima, 3 Mile Island, but none carry the ghostly weight of Chernobyl. Because it wasn't just about radiation. It was about fear, about control, about silence. And yet, from that silence, voices eventually rose. Scientists, survivors, witnesses. They told their stories, wrote their truths, risked their freedom to ensure the world never forgot. And we shouldn't, because the next disaster won't announce itself. It will come quietly, like Chernobyl did, in the dead of night, beneath a sky that looked the same as always. So we remember. We remember the red forest, the men who climbed the roof with shovels, the nurses who held trembling hands, the mothers who left everything behind, the children who played under invisible clouds. We remember that some mistakes are irreversible, and that the price of forgetting is too high.